So I haven't done this in a while, and I said I wouldn't, but let's talk about John Campea. So I want to do a reaction real quick on the John Campea show because he talked about this, and there was some parts that he brought up that I want to highlight. Let's talk a little bit about John Campea. So somebody, if you watch the John Campea show, put JC in the chat real quick. If you follow the John Campea show like me, if you're a John Campea follower, put JC in the chat, man. Give some shout out to John Campea, man. I'm like he's my favorite, one of my favorite YouTubers, and if not my favorite. And and every now and then I got to give him a little love or a little grief. I don't know how he's gonna take it. Ray seems to like me. But let me go to my notes and let's see what. I see you. I see what you just said, Geekly. Geekly says they're gonna backpedal. You beat me to it, and you know that you're another entertainment news movie guy like me. You already beat me to my damn you beat me to my damn punchline right there. There we go. They're gonna backpedal like crazy. They're gonna backpedal. Let me just say it now. That's exactly where I was gonna lead with all this. They're going to. That's one of the options. There's other options. So that was one of them, but that's the one that I think they're gonna go with because. And we'll talk about why in a second. But let's talk a little bit about what John had to say.
Before I get to, do I think the studio should have let her go? There are going to be, and there already are people out there who are saying this is an issue of free speech. It's not. This is not an issue of free speech. Melissa Barrera did not get thrown in jail. She's not facing criminal charges. But as I often say in this show, and nobody likes to acknowledge free speech and that freedom is a two-way street, right? I have the freedom to say, I think your mother's a whore. I can say that.
I think John stole that line from me because I know exactly where he got it from because I say it all the time. You know what? I can't remember the movie that I got it from, but I remember the joke. It was something like, you know how when people say that you don't like their favorite movie and they always respond with like total shock, like, you didn't like The Godfather? What are you trying to say? And the other guy goes, well, based on your reaction, I guess I'm saying your mother's a whore. I believe that's the joke that John Campea just is referencing. I can't remember what movie or stand-up comedy or what TV show I got that line from, but I think John saw the same thing. But anyway.
How dare you? But I can say that's my opinion. In my opinion, I think but I'm not talking to anybody here. I can say,
look right at me.
I think your mama's a whore. I can say that. I have the freedom to say that. That's freedom of speech. But you then have the freedom to not invite me over for dinner. I have the freedom to say that I think your mom's a whore, but you also have the freedom to say, well, if you're going to say stuff like that, I am not inviting you to my home for dinner. And we're totally good to say that. Freedom goes both ways. All right? Freedom of speech is about protecting us from government persecution.
Boom.
For what we say. Not about everybody else just has to suck it up that we said what we said and do nothing about it. That's not what freedom of speech is.
It's not censorship either. Someone said censorship.
And it's not censorship.
Her posts are still there.
She's totally free to say whatever she wants to say. But, just like I'm free to say, I think your mother's a whore.
That's the third time he said that shit.
You have the freedom to say, well, I don't want to associate with you anymore. You have.
Yeah. And that's what it basically, that was what it boiled down to. And it reminded me of the Gina Carano. Thanks, appreciate you, Dragon. Dragon out there helping me out in the chat with the names, telling me that he thought you thought when the whole thing with Gina Carano, I legit thought her character's name as Amanda Lorian. Amanda Lorian. That's funny as hell. But it reminded me of that. It's like, hey. Because from what I saw, Gina Ortega and Melissa Barrera both on their personal social media accounts had Palestine supporting messages on the top, whether on their bio and things like that. They both acknowledged that they were on that side that for the free Palestine and things like. But you, like I said, if you are on that side of it, if you say anything, then people are gonna take. Because people go to extremes. Because like the example that I made the other day when this stuff broke down is like I as a black man, I can not like or hate the Ku Klux Klan, and still feel sorry for a Klansman's baby if he got into a car accident, got hurt, broke their leg or something like that, and got a 1 year, or 2 year, 3 or 4 or 5 years old. Even though I know he's probably gonna be another future, but I can still feel bad for a little kid who gets hurt or worse without supporting his dad's views or that kid's possibly or likely future views. I can still say I feel bad for that person without being accused of supporting that's just like a person going up to me and going, my mom was mugged by a black crackhead gangster gangbanger 20 years ago, and that's why I think all y'all motherfuckers are the same. Like, how am I responsible for what that dude did? So when I say that it's what's getting ridiculous out there is you can't even get to a point where you say something so neutral, because wasn't, oh man, I'm so bad with names. What's her name from Only Murders in the Building? She had to quit Instagram for a minute because she said something so neutral. People were like, people called her out for that. That's too neutral. You're just trying to ride the fence. Take a fucking step. Like it's getting to a point where you can't even spread love to everybody. Can we, with Rodney, what did he say? Can't we all just get along? That used to be made fun of, but the message was still loud and clear. Nowadays it's like, nah, hell no, you can't get along. What you trying to say? You want to be friends with that white man that whooped your ass? Or why you can't even, like Martin Luther King probably couldn't even be working today. Non-violence. So what you like being like he would be accused of probably being a house Negro. I'm sorry, but it's crazy out there nowadays how people are acting and going to the extreme. You can't even be pacifist anymore. You can't even be neutral. You can't even spread love on both sides without being accused of really sympathizing with this or that, who's perceived to be the enemy, depending on who you're talking to. But let's see. Where did I stop off? Let's see. Right.
Have the right to do that. Just like when Brie Larson comes out and says she thinks there's not enough representation of enough diversity in film critics. Guess what? She's allowed to say that. And other people are allowed to say, whether I agree with them or not, they're allowed to say, well, then you know what? Because you said that, I'm not going to go see your movies. You have the freedom to do that.
Which to me is, and I'm glad he brought that up, which to me is still the main reason why the Brie Larson haters to this day were hoping to do to the current movie what they wished would have happened to Captain Marvel. Because he was right. Nobody was really saying anything that bad about Brie Larson. There was people who didn't like the casting of her as Captain Marvel. They thought other actresses could have done it better. Just like, well, it was on the same level as Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. But the second Brie Larson said that, you know what, if there's a movie like a Black Panther movie, and then there's a news junket, and all you see are with all the outlets that are mostly read by white readers, why wouldn't it make sense to have BET in here, Jet Magazine in here? So that's all she said. I'm like, you're gonna get a lot of black people watching this movie. Shouldn't you be advertising in black media? And the second she said that, Brie Larson doesn't like white people. Like all of a sudden she hates herself and her mom and her dad now. Like, it was ridiculous. And that's the only thing they really focused on. And I can go. That's a whole other show. Let me move on before I start. Let me start again. Let me fast forward to the next part. 7:40. Let me move on because I'm about to go to church. Here we go. Let's start here.
You're in a business. And when you're in business with other people, fair or unfair, what you do reflects on the people you're in business with. I'm not saying that's fair. I'm not saying it's unfair. But when you are in business together, what you do reflects on the people you're in business with. And if the studio says, look, you're going out there doing these things in public and saying these things in public, and we don't want to be associated with that.
Selena Gomez, thank you.
We think you doing that and us being associated with you is going to hurt our business. We think what you're doing is going to hurt us.
And that's what I had to remember. Just like with Carano, with Disney, I was even asked to collaborate with another YouTuber. It was a black dude who was, I guess he was really pandering to the geeks and the flamers, and he thought that I was, because that was when I was trying to figure out what Fandom Menace was and whatnot. I was like, am I a part of the Fandom Menace? Am I this? I thought there was just a group of like some hardcore Star Wars fans, and I realized what they were really about. And I was like, I don't want, fuck that. But he called me and a bunch of other YouTubers to do a collage video of a bunch of YouTubers' thoughts on what was going on with Gina Carano. And when I saw the end result of his video, I wasn't in it. Everybody else that was in it was like, Gina Carano's being treated unfairly, and this is woke. I remember what I said. I was like, Gina Carano was given a chance by Disney to cut it out. Just like Pedro Pascal. Pedro stopped because he was saying some wild stuff. Do you remember the stuff that Pedro Pascal was saying about Trump? Boy, Pedro was not holding back. Just like how Gina was talking about Obama and Clinton and Hillary and so whatever, whoever, and everything woke. Shit, just like she was saying. Disney did the same thing to both of them. I need to cut it out. We're not hiring you to do this and to take on that stuff. We're not going in that direction. So what you're doing is now people are asking us questions. Pedro stopped. Pedro stayed on the show. Pedro kept on working. Pedro's now Mr. Fantastic. Gina thought it would be funny to post another couple of tweets. Gina's off the show. Gina had to double down. I think Gina had a chance to come back if she would have just stopped after she got fired. But then she decided to double down again. I'm going to go on Breitbart or whatever the hell it went to. I'm going to really double down. I mean, there's some money to be made on rage baiting and all that stuff. But there's a floor, there's a ceiling. And that ceiling is now starting to get lower. The rage is still out there, but people kind of get bored after a while. They're still out there. But people in that space, if you're not constantly raising the bar of your rage, and because it's an endless loop of entertain me, fool. Call another girl the C word. Entertain me and rage. It's like those dudes that was in Harold and Kumar. Extreme. The pterodactyl sound. Like they constantly need it. And if you start to simmer down, you're a snowflake. And they find somebody else who can feed that rage. It's hard to be at a max at all time with that much. It's crazy. But I guess she thought it was just, maybe that's just her true personality. She kept it going. I honestly think Gina had a chance to come back. I honestly think because a lot of people were looking forward to that spinoff show that she was about to star in. And I don't care how tough-minded or pig-headed or whatever you want to call it, but I'm gonna say hard-headed. Hard-headed you are. I'm a hard-headed fool too. One of these days she's going to admit, if she's not admitting it in private, damn, I missed those Disney checks. You know she's saying it. Because there's nowhere near, I don't care how much loyal fan base support you're getting, that ceiling is forever getting lower. And Disney's ability for those checks to grow is, just ask Pedro Pascal if he's making the same amount of money from Disney. But he's Mr. Fantastic now. Look what happened to him. Let me move on to the last thing before I go, because I seem to be going on. My fault. I go on these rants. I'm sorry, y'all. I do this every now and then. Let's see what Big Papa CAMPEA has to say about one last thing. One more thing. Would John have fired her? Let's move on to this one. Would John have fired her? That's the question. About here.
Getting back to the question, though, do I think they did the right thing by letting her go? And would I have done that? I'm going to say it depends. On its surface, I wouldn't have let her go over the one statement. I think what I would have done is given her a call and said, can you come into my office or can I come to yours? And can we sit down and talk? And then I would have expressed, listen, you are getting involved in a very polarizing public discourse, and that's your right to do. But we're in business together, and we're in the business of public perception, and we don't want our product or our name or our business to be associated with that polarizing issue right now, and you're dragging us into it. Could you please not? Can you please not? And if she said, no, screw you, we're just going to do whatever, then I would say, then with respect, we're going to move on just because we don't want to be a part of that discussion. So I would say, yeah, if there was the first, like if they had had no discussion with her and they just saw she posted that, I would say get on the phone with her, respectfully ask her to take it down and say, look, we just want to be associated with that, please stop that. And then I would continue to move on with her. But if we brought up those concerns with her and she said, no, whatever, I'm just going to do what I want to do, I would probably say, yeah, then we're going to move on. I don't know. We want to.
And then the commercial comes in. But I wonder how many people that used to work for AMC would be like, man, is that really what you did, John? Really? I wonder how many people from back in the day, really, John? You would have sat down with, he probably, well, I'm sure there's, man, speaking of NDAs, I bet there's some NDAs out there that would probably prove the other. But who knows? But I thought, but that's what I agree with. I think that, and that leads me to what Geekly Goods said earlier. They're going to backpedal. I feel like they will. And I think, was there one more thing? Was there a Robert Meyer Burnett part that yeah, it was. It was one more thing. Before we move on to that backpedal, because Dragon says, I prefer Rob. Well, you know what? I collabed with Rob one time before. We're supposed to collab again. But I'll see if I can make that happen.
Did they act too hastily? Did they make the right move? What would you have done in their situation? How do you address this?
I am a staunch supporter of free speech, even when people say things that I might vehemently disagree with. And remember, when people say free speech, that means that the government can't control free speech.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we can police each other's speech. So our system of government guarantees us the First Amendment free speech. But you put it very, very beautifully, very succinctly, and explained when you're working for somebody, you represent them. And you have to maintain that. And my whole thing is, I will defend people's as ill-conceived as opinions might be, or as
the saying is, I may not agree with what you're saying, but I will defend to the death your right to say it.
Much as I might disagree with them, as long as they don't veer into outright hate speech against, certain people's individuals, whatever.
Like what? Brie Larson hates white people? Like stuff like that? Like, it's ridiculous.
Then I'm like, look, you might have what I consider a bad take, but I'm not going to fire you for that.
Right.
If anything, like you said, have a conversation with somebody, bring somebody in, talk to them about this, because the thing is, from what I understand, she wasn't espousing a view that is not being talked about by half the planet, if not more so. This is not, her position is not something that many people don't also agree with. She's not coming out as some firebrand from left field.
Yeah, she's not a flat earther.
No.
There you go. I mean, and they're right. And you know what? Hey, you know what, Dragon? Movie guy, I got a sound bite that's here for an old sound bite. I think this is for you now. Let me see if whenever I see you in the chat, this is what I'm gonna play for you.
Dragon Daddy.
Our friend of the show saying Dragon Daddy. That's you, man. You're the Dragon Daddy.
Dragon Daddy.
I brought that up for no reason. But yeah, I mean, is what she said. So what she actually said, she pretty much she accused a side of being a committing a genocide. So and saying that to that group of people that with that background, especially with what they went through, that's I mean, it's I can't get into full details on it because I'm at risk myself of getting. I don't want to get demonetized for repeating the words that are being used out there because I don't agree with a lot of things that are being said and stuff. And I understand why people on this side and that side are all upset. But the things that are being said out there is I can understand, like, especially if there is a producer or a coworker or whatnot that is of Jewish background being getting offended like that, especially if they have a hard not life background and they went through things where they're second generation from family members who survived the Holocaust and stuff. These are some touchy subjects, man. But people who are getting thrown on it's just weird to me how if the group is not as, I'll just say, desirable as another, sometimes to me it shows. It's very weird that how when we went through our thing in this country and 9/11, it was very easy for people to fall into crazy prejudices and saying the wildest things. You could say almost anything or almost do anything you wanted to certain to certain people of that background. Nothing would hardly happen to you. Nowadays with TikTok and stuff like that, the way people are nowadays, that's what this generation is fighting against now. Because when a war breaks out, when stuff like that happens and stuff, people just they go to the worst common denominator in their brains and they get into that pack mentality. You're allowed to say anything you want. We're at war with this country. I can say, then I can say whatever I want about those people, and do whatever I want to say. I mean, people get into that mob mentality and stuff, and that stuff is just crazy and it's wrong. Black guy stole your wife's purse in 1985. That means all black people are thugs. That's that bull crap. Like, no, that's not the way the world works. Because you wouldn't like it if it was happening to you. Those prejudices because one guy did something to another. It's just ridiculous. But the options that are leading forward to Scream. What's going to happen with Scream? Let's talk about it.